Call to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Gordon Mara.
Here.
Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Maglio.
Here.
Mr. Paradise.
Here.
Mr. Fernandez.
Here.
Public comments. Let's approve the minutes for August 3rd, 2021, regular meeting. Have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the August 3rd, 2021 meeting minutes.
Second. Second. All in favor?
I abstain.
Business, Jerry.
Move to appropriate a $4,000 juvenile review board grant, part-time health workers' compensation, and social security accounts, of the social services department within the general.
Have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Move to appropriate a $15,000 Department of Housing Affordable Housing Plan Technical Assistance Grant, Affordable Housing Plan Technical Assistance Grant account within the capital non-recurring fund.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
Just have a quick question, Kevin. Why is that considered capital?
It's not capital. Several years ago, town had continued practice of sometimes moving operating accounts over. This is where the other plan of conservation development money is housed that has been carried over for the last couple of years. So at this point, we're just continuing it. We'll be doing the plan of conservation and development for 2023, and then going forward, we'll put it in a different place. We're just kind of finishing it out here.
All in favor?
Aye.
3.
Move to transfer $105,000 from the police personnel account, $52,500 from the police pension account, both of the FY 21 general fund. The transfer to others account. Is this all one? Number 3,
Number 3 is one. This is actually the surplus transfers that we're requesting. It might be easier as you're doing this to also reference the motion F3 in the back of your packet. On the second page of that, you can see that there's a landscape chart which will show you each of these, where we're pulling them from and what they're being transferred to fund. From an accounting standpoint, it's about 4 pages from the back here, 4 by 4. Should look like this. They all have to go from the expenditure account in the general fund to transfers out, so they're all going to be the same type of motion. That's what we have to do. This actually tells you where they're going, what they're funding. So in this case, the first one is to fund 3 police vehicles. And if you look to the right, Jerry, last month you requested that as we go through these, you identify what was actually included in the capital plan and we intended to defer for surplus versus what is brand new relative to that. So the yes would be it was originally intended to be deferred. So we had 3 police cruisers in the plan, but it was part of the surplus bucket we had.
When are we gonna vote on this, Kim?
What's that?
When are we gonna vote on this?
Tonight? Right now? Just made a motion.
So we're going to have another one to appropriate the other side of the transaction. The uses.
You can add it in if you want. When we transfer it out, it was assumed, but we can do another motion if you want to appropriate it to the police account, police cars.
Well, in the case of the 105,052.5 on that sheet further back, it's saying that we're going to use 157.5 for these vehicles. I don't see where we're appropriating to that vehicle line.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, you can have the agenda. Yeah, that would be. And then that's the intent is to appropriate it.
So how about if we go through and we'll read all the transfers in. And then I can do a transfer out referencing the 932,000 on that separate page as
Appropriated as referenced in the motion.
with that detail. Is that okay with everyone?
I guess, but let me ask you a question. Last year when we did the surplus, we did it individually, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we voted on the surplus, voted them individually, like the police cruiser, for the dump truck or whatever, we're not voting them out individually now.
Well, you are doing the transfer. If
Oh,
you
but-
want, you can revise that to say and
Right.
appropriate it to the police vehicle.
Right, yeah, because the public should know, I mean, we're transferring money, and then we gotta look on the back of the page. Last year when we, like, for example, we bought the excavator, we had a motion to buy the excavator, right? Yeah.
Well, you have a motion to fund it,
To
fund
fund
the excavator.
Well, the fund, that's what I meant, the fund the excavator. This year, we're just lumping them in, I gotta look back at the page,
All
why?
right, I'll read it so that each item has the front.
Right, yeah, and also I have another question. Maybe Mr. Simon's gonna add it before we take a vote. Is it, I mean, was it your decision not to buy the large dump truck? Didn't we have a discussion that you were gonna go another direction? Is that why we're not doing it?
No, we should be, I'm requesting the purchase of a large dump truck.
Because it says no, so,
That means it was not in the original.
but we're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just seeing yes, yes, yes.
So that's,
I didn't see that.
this is whether it was in the original
Okay,
surplus identified or not.
No, you're on the right side.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
all, as long as we're buying it, that's all I care about.
All right, so how about if I start over?
Yeah, let's do it.
So move to transfer 105,000 from the police personnel account, 52,500 from the police pension account, both in the FY 21 general fund to the police vehicle line. And or it's going to transfers first, right? Within the CNR fund, they're going to transfer it.
So you could say to the transfers to other funds account and appropriate funds to the police vehicles account in the CNR fund.
Okay. All right, so. All right, I got it. All right, move to transfer $105,000 from the police personnel account, 52,500 from the police pension account, both in the FY 21 general fund, to the transfer to other funds account in the general fund and appropriate in the general, in the CNR fund, $157,500 for police vehicles. Second.
Discussion,
Yeah, just one question for Jimmy. What's the lead time?
1 year.
That's what I figured. I can't find vans anywhere.
Okay. And the vans that you're finding, the used ones, you're paying more than you would purchase a new one for. The shortage of vehicles is estimated to be another year to 18 months out. And they're not even gonna give you a delivery date. I'm sure you know that already. But this is the third year we've been on a 1-year delivery day.
Oh,
For police
so we're
cars.
okay.
So we're okay.
do we get the cruisers that we bought last year?
Yes, we did. Well, they just went on the road, mid-July. So that was a year up. Yeah, the Dodge that we just ordered, for replacement of the total vehicle, they wouldn't even give us a delivery date on.
All in favor?
I
Move to transfer $125,000 from the refuse disposal account, $45,000 from the street lighting account, $5,000 from the blue collar personnel account. Well, in the fiscal year 21 general fund, the transfer to other funds account in the general fund and to appropriate in the CNR fund, large dump truck for $175,000.
Discussion. We also would, I mean, this should put us pretty good.
I'll give you- You're replacing a 2001, and the problem with the 2001 is it's rotted out. If it had a stainless steel body on it, which it doesn't, I would actually try to put a frame underneath it, but it's not worth it. So the new one will come in with it. Will it put us pretty good? Who knows in a year down the road? I mean, when, the problem is, I have mileage reports here for you, if you want to take a look at them.
You could share it with
There.
us.
They are, the problem is they swim in salt all the time, that's all. So.
Make a decision on that wash pad since it's swimming strong.
I do not know anything about water. That is not my budget.
No, I mean, you're still washing the trucks the way you used to wash your trucks in the winter time.
Yes. So, let me explain this. On here is four departments worth of vehicles. So if we look at the highway department, the one that we are gonna replace is highlighted in yellow, it's 2001 vehicle. The next thing that I can see going on with the highway department is you're gonna need a couple smaller pickup trucks. If you look down to 40B, it's at 116,000 on it. 41, we just rebuilt, put a flatbed on it, so hopefully we can get another couple years out of that. 36, which is, or 30, which is the bottom one, is 106,000 miles on it. The older ones, it's not so much the mileage, it's the rust on it. So approximately 6 years ago, we started buying stainless steel bodies for them. Which stainless steel bodies will hold up, we'll be able to reuse those on the chassis. But the chassis are still the chassis. I mean, they're just like the cars going down the road. We got away from buying double C channel frames to single C channel frames, which helps a little bit. And this one, it's all the time. So if you go to the back page, back of that shows you where the police cars are. So the police cars, you can see the 3 police cars we're replacing now, which will be a year out, so they'll come next July, we'll estimate. And then as we go forward, if you look at 16 and 17, they should be up somewhere around 100,000 miles by then. And we got some detective cars that are high mileage too. So as long as we stay on this 3-car program, we'll be good, real good for police department. Unless they decide to do more operations, cause more mileage problems. The other thing that I'm requesting tonight, and I know I'm just getting out of now, facilities van, which is going to be a 2007 replaced at 116,000 miles on it. And again, van runs decent, but it's just rotted out. It's rotted out. And then public grounds, I requested a small dump truck in there. And I really haven't decided, I gotta go do some more research, whether it's gonna be 311 or 318. But that's just looking at going in there and really pulling it apart and seeing what I have to deal with. But those are the vehicles that I requested this year, the departments with the mileages on them. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we are. We're middle of the road. Most of these vehicles, like I said, if it wasn't for the rust, it'd be fine. But they just rust out.
Did we take a vote on that?
Not yet.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Move to transfer $100,000 from the recreation program health account, $25,000 from the blue collar personnel account, $25,000 from lifeguards, pool worker account, only the FY21 general fund, to the transfer to other funds account in the general fund, and appropriate $150,000 to the vehicle reserve.
Second. Second. Discussion.
This has vehicle reserve, so I don't know what kind of vehicle.
These would be the 2 vehicles that Jim referenced. He's trying to, the facilities and then deciding between the parks and grounds from here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to transfer $50,000 from the blue collar personnel account in the FY 21 general fund to be transferred to other funds account in the general fund and appropriate $50,000 to ADA improvements in the CNR.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Move to transfer $50,000 from the telephone account, $35,000 from the electricity account, $15,000 from the natural gas account, all in the FY 21 general fund. To the transfer to other funds account in the general fund and appropriate $100,000 to the gutters, roof, trace, masonry repairs account in the CNR fund.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Move to transfer $50,000 from the vehicle fuel account, $50,000 from the fleet manager's personnel account, both in the FY 21 general fund to transfer to other funds account in the general fund, appropriate $100,000 to the fire radio system upgrade in the capital non-recurring.
Second.
Discussion.
Aye.
Move to transfer $50,000 from the contractual services account in the FY 21 general fund to transfer to other funds account in the general fund and appropriate $50,000 to the air quality account in the capital non-recurring.
Have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Aye.
Move to transfer $45,000 from the school workers' compensation account, $35,000 issue of June 2020 account, $35,000 from the school's overtime account, $30,000 from the school's contractual services account, $5,000 from the fire department workers' compensation account, while in the FY 21 general fund budget to transfer to other funds account in the general fund. And appropriate $150,000 to the buildings and renovations account, roof replacement SKFD in the capital non-recurring fund.
Second.
Second.
Discussion.
So is that enough?
That I do not know. That's not my department.
Doug, are you on the line?
Just last we heard,
It is in bad shape, but this came from the facilities director. Had some.
Good evening. Hey, Kevin. Hey, gentlemen. How are you? Good evening. Hello?
I believe that's a road.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Rose.
So is it enough?
Yes, I mean, it's coming from.
Yeah, so it
That's
is.
correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
How much expensive front?
32.
What do we have left in our surplus?
Right.
Right. What did,
We have
what,
about 950,000 left.
are we gonna do anything with the fire truck?
We are, the plan is, about 850,000. Plan is to assign that when the audit is completed. The 850,000 is split really between two buckets. A little bit over 400,000 is surplus from the Board of Ed. By charter, council and board finance have the authority to transfer out of the Board of Ed into something, so we have to wait till the books are closed, then we can assign it from fund balance, appropriate it from there. The other 400,000 is, put it in just in case. If, as we go through the audit, I think it would be irresponsible to just go in and say, everything's perfect, the auditors are coming in and we're done. I don't expect they're going to find anything, but if they do make any adjustments, I want to make sure there's something there. And then the intent would be to come back to you later on, ideally by November or December, when the audit's completed, and ask council, and then if they agree, ask board of finance to assign the money, then ultimately appropriate it. The first 400,000 would be used to pay for the fire truck, hopefully get February, March, hopefully. February. The other 450 would be the first half.
12 to 13 months.
Sorry?
I said 12 to 13 months from the time it was ordered.
So we're paying off the first one, causing the second. Yes. So my next question is, first thing, use those funds. Let's say by first, finishing up the second.
Yeah, every everything that I've been reading is indicating no. There are a couple of communities that I have found have done that. Each one of them that I have found has said that when they made their motion, they added to the motion saying, if the Treasury denies this, because you ultimately would spend it, and the Treasury says, no, we have to repay the Treasury money, that they are already appropriating their fund balance if needed to do it. So that's the level of uncertainty there.
Wouldn't the problem be if it's turned down as an expenditure, then possibly don't have time to spend it? Therefore, you've lost it.
That is a possibility as well.
What I've read on it too, I've been reading on this, it qualifies. There's something.
I mean, little
That's
sneak
smart.
peek into Thursday. Essentially, the funds are designed to either mitigate issues that have arisen or been exacerbated by COVID. So you have kind of disadvantaged groups that have been worsened, or people who are adversely impacted. So you can add unemployment, you could add even things like burial expenses for folks who are affected, or to mitigate the potential of future issues, things like air quality, outdoor establishments.
We could use this with some of the roof AC units, I would imagine.
Air quality, yes.
So maybe we should take a look at that before we, because what if we appropriate the money first, can we go back and get reimbursed for what we put in?
The money you put aside for air quality tonight is for installation of the units. Those units were bought using 2% money.
Yeah.
You're talking about the installation, which is not going to happen until next year. So you definitely have a window of time. I will tell you though that there is the project that is being actively pursued with the PDC for the 3 elementary schools is expected to be well in excess of the money that is left. So I don't expect that Berlin will be short of air quality projects that are needed to tap into these funds, just because the 3 elementary schools combined will probably be, say, 3 to 5 million or more each.
That's probably the biggest drain we're gonna have on the town budget in the next few years. So
Absolutely.
maybe we should be looking at that instead of messing with what we're already doing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And this is what Thursday is about. The intent is I emailed out the presentation today. Opportunity to kind of lay the groundwork. What's the money? What's available? It's a pretty extensive document the Treasury put together for their interim final rule. And we'll go through it. There'll be a lot of opportunities. There are opportunities, other things you can use. You could actually issue a grant to a private business who had individuals who were engaging in face-to-face activity to provide supplemental bonus or risk bonus to those. As long as we have a process to validate it, you could give grants to supermarkets or restaurants or those groups that had face-to-face contact. So we'll go through that Thursday. There are restrictions, but there's certainly many options for you to use the money. And the overriding principle is the Board of Finance and Council, at least a majority on both, have to agree. Because right now I can't do anything with the money except the $700,000 that I will pull in the general fund because you did appropriate that. So the fire trucks, in answer to your question, the fire trucks will be coming around.
That's, you think about on this?
Yep, you're done with all those ones.
Excellent. Mr. Finance Director update. It's
Um,
always exciting.
Just a couple of quick updates. I called out on the risks and opportunities legal that continues to be a potential risk. We have an opportunity, depending on whether you decide to do bonding in 2021-22 year, potentially use some of that money, but we continue to spend a fair amount defending the town through the Atkins Street lawsuit. The gentleman who owns property over by Bristol Creek would like to put up a multi-unit assessment. That's still alive, very much so. At least for the lawyers. Second thing is pension fund. We're in decent shape with the pension fund. I will warn you that we are continuing to see a rise in the liability. Interest rates were creeping up. They've now come back down, dropped below 1.9% today. So they continue to fall the last few days. So that number of liability could rise. And then just a couple things on the 2% fund. We're pretty far along with temporary approval for the Hubbard fire alarm. There were a couple of outstanding items. The fire marshal gave temporary approval. We'll be revisiting that, but I think everybody's happy with the way the project went and with the result. So that, since you did fund McGee a couple of years ago to deal with that pressing matter, Hubbard, and next will be Willard on the list to try to address these. And then the second piece, you'll see there's $48,490 left for paving at Willard Playground. Final bills have come in, that number's gonna be closer to zero, maybe $1,000 left. But it did address a number of important issues. You had tripping hazards right along the sidewalk in front of Willard and in the playground, not the playground ice on the left side, not the special playground that's on the right, but the left side. So Steve Wood and our grounds crew, as well as some of the contractors that are doing a good job understanding most of that money has been used. And then the last thing, Sal, we usually talk about this at each meeting. So I do expect, even though I have a TBD listed here, there are wage opportunities materializing. We talked briefly last time, the VNA director and clinical supervisor both resigned. They have left. One of the nurses was promoted to be a clinical supervisor. We are actively going through establishing the organization. So I don't have a great feel right now where that will end.
Are you gonna hire a new director?
The intent right now is not. There is an opportunity in the statute.
I have a problem. Not with you. When our Jerry wanted to cut the budget for visiting nurses, okay? The attorney came up and said we couldn't touch it because it's a state statute and everything. And all of a sudden, the director resigns. Assistant director, am I correct? Is that called assistant director? Whatever, her assistant resigns. All of a sudden now, it's like we don't need a director anymore. We don't need assistant director. And all of a sudden, it comes up that as long as we have the proper license, why wasn't that told to the Board of Finance at the time? I mean, I don't understand why that wasn't told, and that kind of aggravates me, because had we have known, we could have done what we needed to do on our end, and maybe we didn't have to take more money out of that fund balance of $700,000, because we were determined to cut the nursing. We were determined to do it. Had we have known that we didn't need the director, the assistant director, we might have taken some action on our own.
Well,
So
just
I
for
have a
clarification,
problem with that.
the assistant director is the clinical supervisor. That position is needed. That is required.
But you're gonna promote.
That's the point he's trying to make.
Oh, no, I
is
understand.
that first there was no movement, and now there's movement.
And again,
I have a problem with
In
that. It's
fairness,
not your fault.
yeah, we're taking advice. We did engage with an expert from CHIP who has advised the town in other instances this way. We need to construct the DNA in a very particular way in order to continue to comply with the statute if we don't have the director position filled.
Right, but you're
And so we're working down that path to do it.
right, but you missed my point.
No, I
My
understand. your
point is the corporation counsel was right here on the screen. And if he's a lawyer, he should have done his research, which he is a lawyer, and he could have told the Board of Finance. I'm sorry. I think there's a lot of things that went on for that nurse and that we should have been part of the loop. I think the intent was, and I'm not making it, it's not a conspiracy theory. I think someone down the line knew that this was gonna happen, and she resigns, the other person resigns, and all of a sudden, we're gonna take credit that we're fixing the nurses. No, I want the record to show that the Board of Finance was willing to fix the problem with the nurses, willing to cut down that $1 million loss. And I feel that the corporation counsel did not tell us the truth. I'm sorry, I'll just go right on and say that. And maybe the mayor knew, maybe the mayor didn't know. I'm gonna give him some credit, perhaps he didn't know either. But somebody down the line knew that we could have done this, and had we have known, because we've been talking about this for 2 years. For 2 years, we've been talking about this. The corporation counsel kept on telling us we couldn't do anything about it, and this was Jerry wanted to cut and he was right. So in the long run, Jerry was right. We should have cut that $400,000 out of the nurse, and it wouldn't have affected anything because the two head of the department was going to leave. So I wish we were shared with that, and that's just my opinion. But somewhere down the line, we were misled. I'm sorry, that's all I think.
And that,
No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault because you were probably misled too.
I I'm not aware of any behind the scenes work.
No,
That's-
but I'm just
I'm
saying
not
there's
aware of it.
It doesn't matter, it's accountability. If you're gonna say something, make sure you say something that's the truth, especially when you're the council.
Well, I will tell you, we have engaged. Town council did approve at the last meeting, Symmetry, which is a consulting firm that will be starting a review of the VNA, an operational review. So, and when they are completed, there will be a Zoom session for the council, Board of Finance to hear their results and have an opportunity to ask questions. And so that was not lost on anybody. We had to leave the bid out, the RFP out for quite a while in order to get responses. I will say that Corporation Counsel was helpful as he pushed it to a few places that he has done business with and said, is this something that you might be
Wow.
interested in? It did open the door to that. I mean, I'm not defending or promoting Corporation Counsel. I hear what you're saying. We are trying to build it in the best way possible that can ensure superior clinical performance for patients, which they've always delivered. Make sure that we comply with the law and to the best extent possible, really minimize that cost to the
I mean,
community.
you know, I just wanted to be on record. I'm not criticizing visiting nurses because I've been saying from day one that the visiting nurses are very well respected in this town and we should keep the visiting nurses. What I'm criticizing is the process, the budget process, that the Board of Finance was maybe misled, maybe not, I don't know, but the appearance was, had somebody done their research and dug a little deeper and found that out, perhaps we could have done something to control some of the costs. But as far as visiting nurses, they're A1 in the town of Berlin, and there's no one will ever eliminate the visiting nurses as far as I'm concerned.
I have a question. Is the town manager still on?
Arosh, are you still on?
All right, I'm gonna throw out the question anyways. Maybe you could pass it on. I'd like to know if the attorneys that you dealt with from, what was it, Shipley and Goodwin,
Yes.
would be available to us for questions.
I'll ask.
That's a good question, too. Perhaps we can meet with them next.
Well,
week.
I certainly would wait until after this report.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna have other attorneys on, you know,
Well, I want to make sure
On
they share
board.
the report with us, because that's another issue I have. You think the Public Building Commission, I've never given us a report on anything. I mean, you know, I could go on, and no one seems to follow the process of the charter. I mean, I was on charter revision. I know how the charter was written. Public Building Commission doesn't take the Board of Finance serious. It's never given us a report, and that's another issue I have. So if we're gonna get a report, let's make sure.
Absolutely, and that was one of our questions when we were finalizing the agreement was, will you be in a position to communicate to Board of Finance and Council the results? And it's absolutely.
And if you're gonna reorganize the nurses, since Jerry's been on that committee, you can share with Jerry, so Jerry can share with the board what's going on.
Sure.
Really good, because I think you've been once or twice, am I correct, Jerry? Then it was dropped, so if you could just put Jerry in the loop, that'd be really good.
The other place that we are seeing some personnel savings and it's continuing to build in the police department. Obviously, we're aware that the chief and one of our long tenured sergeants retired. There is someone in the police department who is eligible to sit for the sergeant's exam and promotion, but that person is out on military leave right now, so they're waiting for that person to come back in fairness. The person needs to serve the country. Don't want to discourage them, so there is a bit of a delay. But in that happening, you now have promotions and other things that are creating some vacancies currently. So I do expect that to continue. And obviously, right now, the police commission is not, at least as I'm aware, to take made a decision for the chief or deputy. So the deputy is the acting chief, and therefore the deputy position, while it's budgeted, is vacant. So you're going to see some savings from that. I've left it as TBD because, as I said, the VNA is more the process, and the PD, the clock is ticking every 2 weeks. You've got a payroll where these vacant positions continue to build it out. Hopefully, those will be closed sooner rather than later, as wants the public safety element there. That was all I had.
I have a question for you, Kevin. Back in January, we had a meeting where we went over the tax abatement program for Newport Realty. And as I remember it, it was a 10-year for the commercial and a 5-year for the residential. Okay, now I read a statement put up by Mr. Lamaglio in August, that this had turned into a 25-year tax abatement with no benefit to the taxpayers. When did this happen? Did the town not tell us?
I'm not aware of any 25-year tax abatement for the town for anyone.
Well, it says right here. Borough
So we're
citizens
gonna,
will
so
not
wait,
feel
wait,
any tax relief.
wait. So Mr. Grady, we're gonna play politics here.
Sam,
No,
I'm
we're
just
gonna-
asking a question.
No, 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 I
Mr.
understand what you're.
This is
trying
not
to- no,
politics.
Yeah, it is, Mr. Grady, you know, this is not the time and place. If you want to play politics, fine, we'll play politics, because I'm a candidate for mayor. So if you want to defend your candidate, that's fantastic.
Sam,
But then, no, wait, hold on, Mr. Grady. The fact of the matter is, it could be 25 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 8 years. It was a tax abatement given on an apartment complex by a rich developer that should have not been given a tax abatement. When the people in this out, no, Mr. Grady, hold on.
Sam, I'm gonna speak whether you like it or
You know,
not.
you can
So
speak
you
all
can
you
say
want.
all you want, and then I'm gonna speak.
You know what, Mr.
So
Grady,
you go ahead and
go
you speak, and then I'll speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Grady, you got.
All right. I wanna know where the 25-year tax abatement came from.
Well, maybe,
You posted it online and Raul shared it.
Well,
Is this
you know-
correct information or not?
well, maybe it wasn't correct,
Maybe it wasn't correct.
Can I
You don't
finish?
know?
Can I finish, Mr. Grady?
Sure, go ahead.
We're all humans, perhaps, Mr. Grady, you know, we're not as perfect as you and the mayor are. I mean, unfortunately, if we had the
Keep it
perfection,
going,
hold
Sam.
on, Mr. Grady, if we had the perfection that you had, oh, you know, I'd probably be a saint and probably be nominated for sainthood in the church. But unfortunately, I'm not perfect. Perhaps I got the dates mixed up, but the bottom line is 25 year, 10 years, it's irrelevant. It's still a tax abatement.
25 years and 10
Again,
years.
it's still a tax abatement. It's still that the people in this community are not getting tax abatements. And a rich developer got a tax abatement. On
We
an
spent
apartment, hold on,
$17
Mr.
billion
Grady.
in town.
You know what, really, Mr. Grady, he's a
Yes.
rich developer.
$17 billion.
You know what, Mr. Grady, he's a rich
So
developer.
what are you saying? You were,
I
you
wanna
didn't
get-
know?
I want to give the small business people tax abatement.
We're not talking
No,
about that. Just
Mr.
answer the
Grady,
question.
that was my intent, Mr.
You
Grady.
shared that
My
information or you
intent.
lied?
No, I don't lie, Mr. Grady.
Well, then why
Let's
does
get the
this say
facts straight,
25
Mr.
years?
Grady. I don't lie, Mr. Grady.
Would you
Okay.
like to read it? I have a.
I know what I wrote. I don't have to read it. I know
Know what
exactly
you wrote,
what
so
I
you
wrote.
deliberately wrote.
No, I didn't deliberately wrote it, and I stand on that.
That you don't know what
25 years, 10 years, it's
You're the chair
irrelevant.
of the Board of Finance.
It's irrelevant.
As the chair, you should.
It's
know
relevant.
what
You're the chair of the Board of Finance, and you
Okay.
can't even put out the correct
No,
numbers.
you know what,
You
Mr.
couldn't
Grady?
even research
Really?
it to see what were the correct numbers.
Really, Mr. Grady?
That's an embarrassment to the whole Board of Finance. Everybody on
Mr.
here should be
Grady, Mr.
concerned.
Grady, you're.
You went from a 10-year and a 5-year abatement plan and put it out 25
Mr.
years,
Grady,
and there will
I'm not
be no
embarrassed.
benefit to
Okay,
the
Mr.
people of
Grady.
Berlin.
I'm not an embarrassment to the Board of Finance.
You are an
Yes.
embarrassment
You know
to
what,
the Board
Mr.
of
Grady?
Finance.
And let's talk about your position on the committee that's looking at the senior and community center.
Sure, go ahead.
Wasn't that an embarrassment of how you voted? That's number one. Number two, this gag order that.
How I voted, you weren't there.
Yes, I was.
You spoke and you left, 5 minutes you
I'm
were there.
talking about the chairmanship. You didn't give
Yeah.
Donna the chairmanship, the person that was the most qualified person. You voted 3-3, long party line or whatever. That was an embarrassment when she.
So there was a vote along party
Can I
line?
finish, Mr.
Are you
Grady?
complaining about the Democrats voting along party lines?
Mr. Grady, on both
You're
sides.
saying it was
Mr. Grady,
you're
on
saying
both
it was
sides.
a
Hold
party
on.
line vote.
Mr. Grady, am I talking now?
Apparently you don't know what happened because Donna Bovee
Donna Bovee was,
graciously bowed out.
she did, because you guys weren't gonna budge, but she was the most qualified person to be chairman, but that's.
And
another
that's your
issue.
opinion.
That-
And that's your opinion.
That's right. The other thing on the public, on that committee shouldn't even exist. The mayor has failed to do his job. This is how the charter, let me explain to you how
So
the
so
charter.
we're
Can I
going
finish?
from a tax.
Can I finish?
abatement
Can I
to
finish?
something that
Hold
has
on,
nothing to do
hold
with
on,
anything.
hold on, let me finish.
It's not appropriate.
No, it is appropriate.
This is not the place for this.
It is
Stop
appropriate.
right now.
Let me
Thank you,
finish.
sir.
Let me-
It's not an appropriate.
Well, let me,
forum for
fin-
that.
I'm the chairman and I'm gonna bring
It's
it
not
up.
appropriate.
Well, I'm the chairman till November.
We
So
don't, you
I'm
and
gonna
I
bring it
don't
up.
have the authority
I'm
to
gonna-
discuss that.
I do have the authority,
No,
and so
you
do you.
don't.
Yes, you do. I'm a citizen of this town. Hold
Then you
on.
can come to the meeting and you
Okay,
can discuss anything
and
you want.
so I want to explain.
I'm not discussing
I'm gonna
that meeting with you,
Of
Sam.
course not. You have a gag order. I'm gonna
That's
explain-
right.
I'm gonna explain to you how this should operate, because this is very important. I think people in town should understand this. because the senior center, community center is an important issue, okay? The important issue is this, is that during the budget process, during the whole process, the building commission was given a statement of need. The building commission should draw up plans. They had $785,000 or $750,000. They failed to draw up a plan. And now the mayor has relinquished his duty and gave it to a little small committee that's supposed to decide on the dollar amount. They're supposed to decide what location. They're supposed to decide what type of community.
You have
centers.
no idea what you're talking about. You have absolutely
That is
not
definitely
one clue what you're talking about.
I do know.
that. You really don't have a
Yes, I
clue.
do. I do.
No, Sam, you don't.
I do. So you're not gonna decide the location and the.
No.
That's what I was told. I was
Well, you
told
were
that
told
last night.
wrong. Were you also told it was a 25-year tax abatement?
I was told that by one of your committee members last night.
Really?
Yes, I was.
Maybe we could break, say Sal had a question, maybe we could go to Sal's question.
All right, but I don't want my, go ahead, whatever. Okay, so I move to adjourn.
I had a question.
Good.
Board of Finance, Board of Education. I could ask myself, but on certified salaries, they're over by 231,000 already, total budget line, so you know anything about that? I could always ask.
I
her.
don't. Sorry.
I can follow up.
You want to say
And I know there's ups and downs during the year,
You know,
so,
this is like it's 2 months into it already. Yeah. Total.
and I know a portion of that would be encumbrance, I can't, I'm not sure, I can follow up or.
Well, I can touch base there. Thank you.
Kevin, I have a question on the 2% account. I was looking at that chart. Looks like there's a bunch of things encumbered. I'm surprised it's not expended. Because I thought most of that work, or a lot of that work was going to be done over the summer. Most schools were closed.
A good portion of the work was being done. Some of it is billing, just haven't received the bills, for example, the Willard sidewalk. I actually saw the superintendent of public grounds yesterday walking in. He had just received the bill in the mail. Literally, he opened it when he got out of his office and said, this is what's gonna be left in it. And that's,
All right, so as far as you
You
know,
finished, Willard's finished.
excuse me?
The McGee, they ripped everything out in the front. I know that's done and I know the Willard project's done.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that, the stuff that they had said they wanted to do this summer. Yeah.
and then they have the fire alarm is essentially complete. There are a couple of items. Obviously, the fire marshal takes great care with that because it's fire protection for kids. The McGee units are purchased, they're going to be stored, so there's 50,000 plus town staff will work on putting those up onto the roof next year, replacing the older units. So they were purchased, but there will be additional items. So those will probably remain encumbered for the better part of the fiscal year, just because we won't have hired someone to do that. And the other one I mentioned last time was the lighting at the library. That the bids came back in substantially higher, so we're talking with the board that trying to figure out, they're trying to figure out ways of trying to find some money as to whether we close that gap and get that completed. And how we can do that.
By substantially hundreds of thousands. I actually hope that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like absurd.
They've been looking at the
Rhetorical
scope,
question.
they've been looking at the scope and some other things to bring it down, but it's a fair amount of money. That one is, right now is going to sit unencumbered and unspent because you can't kind of go forward one way. Wish I had a better answer. We put the bids out, there's a chance to go back and see, putting a different, adjusting the project potentially back out to bid or some of the things we sometimes do. But as pointed out, it's a substantial difference.
Yeah, the two bids were at 187, one was at 240.
They put aside how much?
So 150.
One, they could cut it 10 to 30 if they accept the alternatives. And they're doing scope reviews for the low bidders to see if they can get the price down.
So that's gonna sit idle for
240, so it's double from 6.
My last question, if it's okay. What do you have for a fund balance estimate? End of fiscal 20?
end of fiscal 21. If we do the 850,000 fire trucks, I would have 17.4 million. Essentially, it would be about, I would say about $40,000 above what we did last year. What I will caution you on is that we've already appropriated in FY '22 $5.3 million for the pension. We did increase contingency 200,000, so we went from 100 to 300,000 in appropriated fund balance in the budget. However, we did reduce the 140,000 in service. Net, all of those, if we just finished break even in FY '22, so not the audit that we're now at the end of this year, would leave us at about $12.1 million, which against the $94 million budget we have now would be 12.9% against a policy of 11%. And you know, one of the things we could look at is potentially revisiting that. You know, an 11% fund balance target when your budget was 86, 87, 88 is different than your budget is. Whether you agree with it or not, it's approaching 100 million. The numbers become different, and maybe that number can be adjusted to reflect that, but you're still above. By projections right now, you would be about 1.7, 1.8 million over the 11%. So you would have enough to substantially close the pension gap for the couple of people that are not funded right now in the pension plan. That's one priority, to make sure that that gets done. You're still managing through and doing that. So that's probably the first big and critical hurdle. And obviously continue to pay down the debt. We're at about 81.5 million this audit because we didn't borrow. One of the things I'll talk about Thursday night is with the loss in revenue, which is something that you can then take in. You've taken 700,000 already in, and the revenue loss per the treasury calculation formula is above that. One of the things that the council had agreed to was to borrow the remaining amount for the athletic facilities grants so that we could finish personal field properly. It's just, it's worse than was anticipated, and more work is really necessary to do it right. One thing you could consider is taking the rest of the money that shows for the revenue shortfall into the budget for FY '22, appropriate fund balance to do that rather than borrow, which would allow you to get another fire truck, at least with the down payment using the fund balance and complete that field work. And then you have to decide if you want to borrow anything else. We don't really have any ordinances out there, so I can't really go forward borrowing unless go forward with the town ordinances. So I'm looking to you guys as well as we get into October, November, December as to, do you want to hold the line on bonding? That's what we will do. Are you agreeable to doing some bonding? And some of that I think is going to come from Thursday night when we decide to do with the money. If you want to go forward with air quality, you want to use ARPA funds, there might be an opportunity to live bonding another year. If you want to move forward more aggressively with fire vehicles and yet maintaining the fund balance, I think it requires some bonding. So those are kind of the discussions that we have to have over the next couple of months, just so we have time. We talked about, Tim was able to hear for the referendum, we really have to be in a position to have a good story to go to bond council and develop an ordinance by January in order to get the vote if we're going to referendum. For smaller projects, like a couple $1 million for fire trucks or something like that, you don't have to go to referendum. So you don't do a broader window. But as we go into the budget, I think those are the broader discussions. Obviously, capital will be presented, we decide to do that. But maybe earlier on, we can talk about what we want to do bonding. We can go from there and craft that section of the budget. And I shared with Sal, and I'll share with you with the budget. Is, we could take, if you didn't do any more bonding, you take about another 8-ish million off. So your 81.5 would be down into the low 70s, which is substantial. Think back in 2016, we ended with 107 million plus the pension liability. You almost exhausted the pension liability, and you're down at 81.5. You can continue to come down. So there's been a lot of progress made in a 5-year window. It's probably what we wanted out of it.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, the reason I called you.
Hey, y'all.